if you ever are at a conference and you hear someone say the Milligan brothers, that is a way to know that that person has known Matt and I a very long time, because there are still people out there that will introduce us as, oh, this is Tyler and Matt from the Milligan brothers. We're like, it's not the Milligan brothers. It never has been Milligan brothers. But for a long time, it was.
I'm going to call you guys Milligan boys. I like that. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Toll Talk. Excited to have you all here. I'm one of your hosts, Kaylee Jakovics, the Director of Business Development at Mojo Creative Digital.
And I'm Alex Ficari, CEO and founder of Mojo.
Yeah, and today we have a special guest, Tyler Milligan, who's the Managing Partner of Milligan Partners. So, Tyler, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is your second time, maybe third time,
I
think, at this point.
Maybe fourth, I don't know.
Yeah, joining the podcast. So we're excited to have you on board, get to know you. You know, our audience can get to know you a little bit more, learn about Milligan Partners as well. So if you want to just start, give us a background about you, tell those listening, you know, kind of who you are, where you're located, what you like to do for fun.
Yeah, you bet. Well, as you mentioned, I am one of the Milligans of Milligan Partners. My brother and I, we started Milligan Partners back in 2012, so we hit year 12 this year.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm based in Dallas. My brother's in New York City. And yeah, from a personal perspective, as you can see the picture behind me, this is up at a place near a cabin I've got. And it's roughly about, I think this is at about 12,500 feet elevation.
Wow.
You took that far?
Yeah.
I thought it was like
professional.
yes.
Did you hear how generous this is? He just gave us invites. That was amazing. How eloquent of you.
If you come up, you can see this beautiful landscape whenever you want to stop by. I tell everyone.
Don't tempt me.
Well, hey, the funny part is most everyone, when I tell them where it is, they're like, I don't know where that is on the map. And I show them on the map and they say, how long does it take to get there? And I tell them how long it takes to get there. And they're like, yeah, I think I'll just go somewhere else. It's a little bit out in the boondocks. As you can see, even in the picture, it is deep, deep, deep above the tree line.
It looks
not the
really
cabin,
calming,
but yeah, I love hiking. I actually took a 28-mile hike recently that almost killed me. And, but I love the outdoors. I love not being in Texas heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm in Dallas, and as I mentioned, and it is really, right now it is 96 degrees, which is awful.
Yeah.
That's a respite, actually. It's 10 degrees cooler than it was last week.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And now who's older? You're your brother. You mentioned your brother.
Oh, my brother.
Oh, I'm
the little brother.
But like a lot older?
3 years.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, I'm a younger sister, and I just want to say the younger. So, I mean, we're the cool ones. So
No.
put that out there for everyone.
We keep ourselves busy. We're more, I was going to say we're more creative. I don't know if that's accurate in my circumstance, but
Yeah.
but yeah, he is the pain in the butt older brother. Yes, most definitely.
I can agree with that on my side.
As the older brother of two brothers, I'll say you guys just get away with crap more often. That's all it comes down to.
That is true.
Our parents cut their teeth on us, and we couldn't
Thank you for taking the
do
heat.
anything. Yeah, you're very
The
welcome.
olders.
Whatever.
There were times where I remember explicitly, I would smack my brother with a pillow and then immediately scream "mom" and run away, and he would get in trouble and get sent to a room.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Sounds like my life, too.
So if you guys had that kind of relationship, how did that morph into you guys working together? Saying, hey, I'll take more torture. Yes, please.
Believe it or not, a long time ago, I tried to get a job at NTTA. I needed an internship, and I knew the executive director from Boy Scouts. Hebert. He actually was in the same troop that I was in as a dad, and I reached out because I didn't know anything about anything, and I got lost in boxes as things do, and I didn't get a job offer because they didn't even know that I was looking for a job, and then my brother a year later dropped out of college And my dad says, well, now you need a job. So he reached out to NTTA and he actually got a job. He started a little ahead of me. And then when I graduated, I realized I wanted to work what I learned about in college. I've got a construction degree and there's something called an owner's rep. And as sort of the triangle of support for a project in construction, you've got the owner, the architect, engineer, and the constructor. Mm-hmm. Well, the owner and the architect and the engineer, they've got all the good contractual terms. They've got low risk. They've got a stronger contract, higher profit margins. Mm-hmm. Well, the contractor comes along. The contractor gets the 2% profit margin, the long hours, the 7 days a week, the working in the rain, all these things that really they didn't sound like a great deal coming out of college. And so I thought, I like this owner's rep idea. I like being on the protected side of the contractual relationship. So that's where I headed down, and I ended up at NTTA. And we've worked together. Now that I think about it, in high school, he worked at a bike shop. I needed a job. I talked to the bike shop owner. I worked at the bike shop. He quit right before I started. Then he went to go mow lawns. When he went to college, there was a lawnmower in the garage. And I'm like, well, I'll go mow lawns. So we've sort of, I followed in his path.
That's something.
For quite some time. Yeah.
Well, I have to reflect on that a little bit, thinking about your path. Most of the people we interview that, are on the show actually stumble into tolling. I mean, you sound like you willingly dove for it, like I'm going to go work at NTTA. I mean, tolling is tolling gets, So,
yes. I didn't fully understand. The only thing I knew about NTTA was that I'd grown up in Dallas, and they own, like in Dallas, if you've ever been to Dallas, you got the Dallas North Tollway. Mm-hmm. And that's been an icon since it was built in I think 64. And so I was very, very, very aware of that as a thing and it being a part of the region. I had no clue about the operational organizational side of things, but yes, I definitely had a clue of where I was going and what I may end up getting into.
Wow.
But it was, you're right. Everyone will have, as you've probably seen, we've had meetings and say, raise your hand if you had any idea what you were getting into, and no one raises their hand.
None. Everyone's like,
nobody
I fell into it.
Well, we're just a bunch of, what is it, misfit toys? We're just a bunch of misfit toys.
I love that. Tyler, for some of those listening that may not know, Milligan Partners, can you explain what do you guys do? What offerings do you have?
Sure. So we are a consultancy that specializes in technology and operations, specifically within the tolling and transportation space. That's kind of, as I mentioned, my brother, when he started NTTA, he was in the IT department. When I started, I was in the engineering and construction department. And so we come at this with a very broad approach to most of the aspects of what a toll agency does. And so we bring some of those skills to our clients' feet. We help with feasibility and planning. We help with constructability reviews, procurements with systems and operations, even organizational strategy and business strategy. And we've been very fortunate. Even the staff we hire, we always look for people. When I am interviewing somebody, I want to see their context of how they fit into their current job. Mm-hmm. And I want to see if they understand that context, because I think you can teach a lot of people a lot of things, but they at least have to know why they do what they do. And I think that as a consultant, that provides a better product, because then if you're paying me to serve you,
right,
then you want me to think as closely to you as possible, or at least not agree with you, but understand your perspective. And so that's really important to me. So we try to provide staff and consulting in a way that is very, like sometimes we'll say we've been in your shoes, and Matt and I take that approach coming from NTTA and coming from an agency side to say, we've at least sat in your shoes, sat in your CSR's chairs. One of our staff that we recently hired used to be a customer service rep. And I think that helps, because then you can empathize a little more effectively with your client's needs. And so that's generally our approach to how we provide services for clients.
That's no, that's great. And so you said 12 years? 12
Yes.
years you've been in business? Okay. So in that 12 years, what have and this is just a question for myself, what have been the biggest milestones in your 12 years, like the top three, or top two that just come to mind that help you become who you are today at Milligan,
Our first prime contract. Well, actually, you know what? I always have to give a shout out to Darby. So Darby Swank,
Yep.
Who's now at LJA,
Mm-hmm.
he gave us our first contract back in, I think it was December of 2012. And that was huge for us because when we first started our business, we thought we had a contract to roll under.
Right.
And the week we quit, the client restructured their budget and cut 2/3 of the budget. And we were on the chopping block. And so we went from quitting our job thinking we'd have an opportunity to having nothing. And so we had 6 months of hardcore marketing. And I went to every IBTT I could squeeze in at the time. And Darby gave me a ring one day and said, "Hey, I got a small little contract for you." It wasn't huge, but it was enough to think, okay, I'm not going to go broke or have to find a new career.
Right.
So that was huge. And I should mention it was under when Darby was a Telvent. And the next contract, probably the biggest one that I think was huge for us, was we not too long after that, we earned our first prime contract, which was it through the years, it as a small business, as a boutique shop, it's really hard to compete. And being in the government space, where even if it's best value, if we're fighting against these big dogs, we're never ever gonna walk away without a bloody nose. And so anytime that we can get a prime contract and not be subbed to somebody is huge. And so I think our first prime contract, I think that we got in 2012, was significant for us. It didn't financially necessarily roll out into a lot for a while.
Sure.
But that was big.
But it was a catalyst for change.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes. Yeah. When I hit 5 years, I think that was a big step for me because I never doubted. I'm an optimist. Yeah. I'm way to a fault.
Yeah.
And so I never thought we wouldn't make it. Not to be like too prideful, but I wasn't afraid of failing. And so I just thought, well, we'll just chug along and we'll figure it out as we go. I mean, even people ask me about starting the company. We have never had a business plan. I'm not suggesting that all businesses should not have a business plan. However, we didn't need one when we quit.
Right.
So we never wrote one.
Yeah.
And we're very, 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 very lucky that we never had to stop and like refocus and say, what's our purpose?
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 years kind of, it at least said you're not completely useless. Maybe that's what 5 years taught me was I had a little value.
Yeah.
So,
you want to go? I was just going to say we can like truly relate to some of that, especially like winning as a prime. That was a huge shifting point for us as well in the industry, and like whether it's a big dollar amount or not, like it's huge.
Experience, the conversations, the dynamic of it all changes a lot.
And with that too, I was going to ask kind of what do you see the vision, whether it's 5-10 years from now, where is Milligan going?
Yeah. Is it reasonable to ask if you have a vision? Since you had no plan by your own admission.
Whatever it is, we know it's going to be successful.
Of course. We he says it's going to be successful. So
it's Tyler. It's the Milligan boys. We know.
Yeah.
We know.
Well, and what's funny, Kaylee, if you ever are at a conference and you hear someone say the Milligan brothers, that is a way to know that that person has known Matt and I a very long time, because there are still people out there that will introduce us as, oh, this is Tyler and Matt from the Milligan Brothers. I'm like, it's not the Milligan Brothers. It never has been Milligan Brothers. But for a
I
long
like
time,
it though.
it was,
I'm gonna call you guys Milligan Boys. I like that.
yeah. So that's if you ever hear that, you'll have to give me a jab in the side. But looking forward, I think, so maybe I'll opine on this for a sec. Whenever Matt and I started the company, we looked back to this one project that was, to us, the most successful project. I think we had a sub, not we, when the company we worked at previously, we had a sub on our team, and it was a joint venture. So we had a partner across the table that was a competitor of ours, but we came in as a joint venture. And it was the most successful project I think we had ever been on, because we all had a stake in the work. And it wasn't about, sometimes you'll hear you got to take the hat off when you walk in certain meetings, and you can't talk about it, or you're not focusing on who you work for necessarily. But it was a great project, because it was all about doing the best work for the client, no matter the circumstances. And so when we started the company, we thought that's their job. Our job is to make sure the client gets the best people and not the best company. And so we also believe that our market, this tolling space, is huge, and there's lots of opportunities for lots of different companies. And so we're not as aggressive. We're not like looking to push other people out. We realize that there's a big cake here to eat from. And our goal is simply, probably in the next 8 years or so, our job is, we want to grow to a stable place where we can continue to manage the current clients we have, slowly draw out new clients that strategically look appropriate for our current business plan. And I think we're very comfortable with organic growth and just having a good time. I've said this to my employees, and I truly believe this. If in 10 years we shut the doors and walk away, but all of us can look back and say, we all got a paycheck. Yeah. We all had a good time. The work we performed, we can stand behind. Yeah. To me, that's all that matters. I don't care. I'm to the point in my career where if something happens and we all have to walk away tomorrow, it's been a fun ride, and I'll do something else. So
that's a great mindset to have. It's kind of what I live my life by. I mean, I want to be at Mojo. I don't take this. Better watch your mouth. But I'm saying mindset is everything. Better watch your mouth. Something good, something bad happens, like make the most of it, and just kind of continue on. He hates me. I don't know. But mindset is everything. Yeah. I guess, what about for tolling and mobility? How do you see the industry evolving over the next few years? And I guess at Milligan, how are you positioning yourself to stay ahead?
Yeah. One thing that I think keeps us slow, us as an industry, are bond covenants. And just to give a little bit of detail for the audience, I'm sure that we're going to have a bunch of nerds watching this, but the bond covenants are the rules around whenever an agency sells bonds to finance a facility and operations. There's some rules and restrictions within those bonds, and the idea is that their 30-year term needs to be guaranteed with a certain, or the 30-year term, has a return over time, and they want to be as conservative as possible to make sure that they get, the toll agency can collect the revenue on a consistent basis, and then pay those bonds back over time, because a lot of times you've got pension funds or other very, very, very large funds that are looking for a very reliable return on their investment. Right. And so over the next few years, I don't see a whole lot of really substantial change outside of, there is a trend from a back office perspective, and that agencies are looking for something different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're looking for different vendors necessarily, but they're looking for a little bit of different product. Over the years, there's been some really tough failures across the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're starting to see a lot of leadership coming from outside the industry, and so they're stepping into their shoes and they're looking around saying, why am I spending this money on a product that's not always great,
Sure.
and sometimes locks me into 10-year contracts, and so I'm already seeing some clients starting to look around and try different things in an effort to try to be more creative from a customer service experience. Part of this is just simply a reaction from 10 years ago when open road tolling started to grow as a concept. You started taking toll collectors off of the road and putting them into the back office into a customer service role. And so customer service departments grew. You now were hiring a whole lot more people in the customer service space. You are also being held to a much higher standard.
Right.
Because whereas before, when you pull up to a toll booth, that experience was, at least for people that are experienced with cash collection, pulling up and talking to a toll booth operator was generally a pretty consistent thing. You get a smile, hand them your couple quarters, and you move on, and that's you're done with that transaction. If you're new to a city, you can always ask, say, hey, where do I? Usually, the toll collector is pretty familiar with where you were geographically, and so also toll collectors were kind of like the AAA representative, where if you say, hey, I don't know how to get to the airport, usually they can help that customer, and they were that first contact. Now all we have is a typical customer service experience on the phone, and so agencies are hiring, I think, new managers, supervisors, and managers into the customer service management space. So they're bringing new ideas and they have different expectations, and then they influence the procurement cycle. And so they're demanding different things from a procurement cycle, and they're also demanding different vendors. They're coming from, say, like here in Southwest and Dallas, they may come from Southwest and say, what the heck is going on here? I've got this set of vendors that are providing customer service applications to me. Why am I not seeing them here? That doesn't make sense. Why can't this be commoditized and picked up and moved?
Yeah. Well,
so I that is catching up to us.
I remember being at one of the IBTTA events where it was like a procurement morning. It was like one of the very first sessions that they had, which is usually it's towards the beginning of the whole event, the sequence of events. But you were there, and I'd seen you there. I've actually heard you talk about being at other ones before. So, I think you definitely have that sort of vantage point where you see people talk about change. They want to have that change. And you do hear it coming up that we're dealing with some antiquated means of doing business. And it's unfortunate because it's funny, some of these agencies aren't state run. They're state influenced, certainly, right, all the time. But these are private corporations. They're just all depending upon the flavor of the state. The idea though is that there is, I think, an adoption or an inheritance of state-like behavior, right? And so seeing that innovation is very tough to see. But I think you're right. The thirst and the desire to see it and tomorrow is now, right? But finding those agencies that are innovative, they're willing to take those chances. I definitely hope to see more. And I won't mention any, but I've seen some that get really excited about innovation, and some that get excited, but it's just not quite the right time. It's there, it's close, and they like that cutting edge and different technologies, and I think that's all fantastic stuff. So I think the changes, I would just reaffirm, I think that is coming, here more and become more prevalent into the RFPs and the RFQs and everything that goes out there looking for those opportunities. I think you're going to see more in who we hire, right? Those influencers, those industries in the private sector that influence customers' expectations no matter where they go. So go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I was just going to second that too, because at Mojo, we've been a part of the industry maybe 5 years now. And I think there's even been a huge shift over just the last couple, maybe 2-3 years, where we've seen, these agencies, they're looking to make that change, and they're kind of stepping back and saying, hey, why are we stuck in this contract for, 10 years on a system that's not, is not going to be good for us in the long run, or something that we can't change or make better for the future, for our customers, for the drivers. So just a second.
Well, I suspect when I do it as a customer, it's got to drive you all crazy when you stumble across a website for an agency and it looks like it was designed in 1997.
Yeah.
And they're there. They're
There's
there
lots of
now.
them.
And it's, I mean, I'm not trying to necessarily get a bunch of work and plug it all right now, but I'm serious. Like, if you just not a self-serving statement coming out of my mouth for the next 60 seconds, there is literally an expectation that customers have that's everywhere. And then they come to an agency where they're supposed to trust where they drive, what they say, do it, follow the rules,
making payments,
make a payment. And meanwhile, it's like, and I don't even think negatively about PayPal, but it's through a PayPal hyperlink that you got to click 5 times to get to make a payment. It's like,
it's not mobile responsive.
What are we talking? Like, where are we?
I know.
Yeah, it's
1990.
So I literally mean that without self-serving. Now we're back onto self-serving. So call Mojo at, no, I'm just kidding.
We can help you with your customer journey.
So check this out. Speaking of like your previous interviewees, so thinking about Pat, right, at CSG, one of the things they showed us, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, they showed us some really cool text interface, or I should say text communications for invoice payments. And none of the clients that I worked with at the time were doing anything like that, but they service people like Verizon and cable companies, and they have hundreds of thousands of customers that they're pushing their product to. And they were looking at me going, why is no one doing this? Why are we not texting out a simple link where I can pay my invoice by just a couple clicks? And so they were offering services that were widely used by other markets that we were slowly catching up to. And there was no reason to it. I think it was frustrating for me too, as a user, that some of these decisions, they're not limited by bureaucracy. I think sometimes it's just limited by experience. And what I've really seen, which is nice, is to your question about sort of the 10-year space, is that we are seeing an acceleration of opportunity, and you've got new vendors or vendors that are buying other vendors or seeing what other vendors are doing and bringing new ideas to bear. I even think like what you had David Patterson on. I worked on.
You are a fan. I love it.
He watches our episodes.
I'm prepared here.
Yes.
I gotta be prepared.
Hey, and we are on Spotify now too. So there you go.
Really? No kidding. All right.
We are.
I did not know that. So with David and Harris County, what was it, like 2016, 2015? They deployed a new website and they hired a website developer. That was a first for them. And the website developer came in and taught them all kinds of things they had no idea about. And even A/B testing was new to them, which it
been around.
In every other market, it's being used, or for at least for user interfaces and web interfaces and UX, user experience. And so it was a great opportunity for a different perspective to be brought in and educate and create a new mindset. And then even that, I think also what's valuable there is that, like you said, customers have an expectation. And I even think as we look forward at the political battle that we're going to have ahead of us, there's value in creating trust. And we need trust in our public agencies. And when they get a crappy product, the customer is not building that customer's trust. And as like in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I don't know if you've driven around here lately, but we have a lot of toll roads. And for some people, the only viable route to get to work is the toll road. And we keep on building toll roads. And customers aren't always happy about that. But if you can at least try to give them a good product, or at least give them the best product available, I think that goes a long way. And I know it's not easy. I know that, as I mentioned earlier, our industry is risk averse for a very good reason. But there's ways around that. And I think I'm seeing more and more agencies look for those side channels to provide a better product. So I'm at least hopeful, and I think that leads into as a business, one of the tactics we're taking is try to tackle these side channels, try to bring new ideas to the market or to the clients that they may not have seen before, and maybe we'll just hopefully create an opportunity for ourselves. We also we're looking internationally.
Nice.
We've got work around the world, and some of the perspectives we bring to bear are not only understanding. We try to say, look, we know the U.S., but we try not to make the world the U.S. And so it's really important also to say we have a perspective that should inform your decisions, not drive your decisions.
Right.
And we tend to think that brings a little extra value being a small business, and also we're being small. Like I said earlier, I want to have a good time. I want to. Hopefully, I'll see you in Spain in a couple of weeks.
Yay!
I'm hopeful that we can see how others operate around the world, and that also we can bring that back to the U.S. because even the way the EU operates, there's some things that they've solved that the U.S. can't.
Yeah.
And vice versa. The U.S. has solved things that the EU struggles with.
Yeah.
And so we try to bring those perspectives to bear.
And I think that's great about, the roles of consultants. And sometimes in some industries, especially in private sector, consultants it's kind of a four-letter word to some degree. But what I do love about this industry is that, we open our arms to them and try to understand what they have to offer because, for example, we've Mojo's taken on an international project. We've done some of those things now, and there is a different way of thinking, right? There's PII considerations. There's how they look at their terminology, how they look at their business rules. Everything does change, and what it does is it gives you a vantage point that not everybody can get, and it does foster opportunities for innovation and sharing. But I think you're the one thing kind of go back to you is. I think it's vital is that trust is missing, right? And I don't think it's malicious. I think it's a little bit of PTSD for a lot of people going through this situation. But it is a challenge. But we have to find ways to accelerate the trust building process amongst us because we're all here doing something pretty amazing and building an infrastructure system. So let's let's work together on it for real though. But so how do you, as you look at that, you have these principles, you have this thought process on where the industry needs to go. How do you disseminate that down to your team? Make sure you guys are heading the same direction, rowing the same way.
One of the things we've done that we didn't do a long time ago, it was really hard for us. Matt and I would talk a lot and we're very, very different, but we have a lot of similarities that I've begrudgingly accepted. But because we have we start from such very, very different places that we would build our decision-making based on that. Well, we realized that our team wasn't hearing these conversations. And so we've implemented a quarterly strategic process where we attempt to get together. It's really hard sometimes, but we try to attempt to get together either physically or online and have these conversations as a company. And even to some degree, we look at the big companies and say, what do the big companies do?
Yeah.
And so we not only just have some structural activities that have really helped us as a company, we push learning and education as much as we can. Now, what I found is some employees don't want after high school or college, they're done with learning. If it doesn't come by osmosis,
right.
Why'd you look at me like that?
I didn't look at you for that specific reason. I was just seeing if you could relate.
I'm always learning.
You're stretching your neck.
Yeah.
But there's certain aspects things that we do, like even my brother, he had a mentor early on from a really, really, really smart guy. And he taught him things that Matt tried to carry forward. And there's some things that Matt does that I had never seen anywhere else on any other projects. And so he taught me how to do them. And I was an idiot for a while, and it took me a long time to sort of internalize these concepts.
Right.
But I've learned that some of the things we do are very different just by happenstance. And so we also try to teach our employees. Like we've actually had some book recommendations for our employees on things that we try to teach and try to help them have a different perspective or maybe a more structured perspective on something that is unstructured in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also helps because we want this constant learning. Matt and I think he still reads. I read a lot. He'll even mail me books. I assume they're from him, but I'll have a book show up in the mail. He won't tell me it's from him. I'm 99% sure it's from him.
That's awesome.
But yeah, he'll just mail me a random book.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess Matt wants me to read this. So
let's hope I'll
read the book.
Yeah.
And like there's a book that he sent me called the Management Myth. And it's a fascinating book about some of the sort of the creative reality around business management consulting.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes all the way back to the entire history of where it started and where it goes. And my takeaway from that was I need perspective. We need perspective of what we do and why we do it. And what is our place? Even one of the things that I struggle with in the book, it talked about if I'm doing the work, I'm not consulting.
Yeah.
And that was a hard pill to swallow because I do a lot of things for clients. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I guess the idea of the book is trying to communicate is there's a difference between just being a staff aug versus actually advising.
Interesting.
And so at least it made me think, okay, stop and think, ask yourself what the client is asking you to do. Are they putting you in a management role? Are they putting you in an advisory role?
Right.
Are you sliding between those two roles inappropriately? But learning is really important. And so to your question, we try to create opportunities for learning. We try to teach our employees and share whatever knowledge we have because we are not going to be around forever. And if something happens to us, we need to make sure that, the client gets what they need. So even starting off when there's two of us, Susan Buse, one of our mentors, and we actually used to work with her at NTTA. She had a really honest, she'll do this to you. She looked at me and she says, what happens to you, or what happens if one of you gets hurt? Because we were looking to team on a project.
Yeah, sure.
And she was just straight up saying, wait, if I rely on both of you to do the work, what happens if one of you disappear? And that was a hard pill to swallow. And so I've carried that with me that on every project, I even carry an apprenticeship approach where I try to have at least two deep, no matter what they ask of us.
Nice.
And it's not to try to double bill, but like you think about a plumber. If you've had a plumber, electrician come by just yesterday, Samsung repair rep came by for the dishwasher. Two people walked in the door.
Nice.
And I think the value there is that you always should create opportunities for teaching and knowledge growth because like I'm sure you do this, you surround yourself with smarter people than you.
Absolutely. She's smarter than me.
Yeah.
that makes for
don't agree so quick.
Come on, don't. Sorry. But you gotta create opportunity for education, and we even carry the concept that if we're not the right place for you, then go find the right place to be.
Sure,
if we lose knowledge, that's just how it goes.
I love that you're doing that at Milligan, and then also it carries over. I know through IBTTA. You're on a lot of committees, you volunteer. I know for me that, like, if I have a question, I feel like you know it all. Like, I'm like, I'll just ask Tyler. I'm new to the industry. I'm learning. I'm a young professional, and you've kind of helped pave that way. So thank you for that.
So as we get ready to wrap up, I do want to ask you one more question I think would be in the spirit of what we've been talking about today. So you have a great vantage point of all the agencies you've worked with, right? You understand the roles and how everybody ties together. We want to promote innovation. We want to push collaboration. What effort do you go to find new partners? Right? Do you have demo days? Do you open the door? Do you travel around the country? What is your strategy to bring competitive, innovative solutions to the market, to those people that need to hear about them and know about them, so they can stay cutting edge, or for their own agency's sake?
I probably should, but I don't actively do as much as I should to aggressively attack a solution with a partnership in mind. And I'll give an example. So in Atlanta, I think it was a colleague stopped by our booth,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe the lesson here is that I try to be open and listen
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, and because as a small business, it's really hard, as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard to work on our own.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that too. And so we always have to look for people who will either hold us up
Yeah.
or create value for the client. And so I
There you
think
go.
maybe in the back of my mind, always thinking about it, but I'm not actively pursuing these things. And we
Sure.
stumbled upon an individual who had recently departed their employer. And I knew the person by reputation. I knew some of the work they'd done in the past. And they immediately said, is there anything I can do to help you?
Yeah.
And at the time I thought, I don't know. I'll just keep it in the back of my mind and think, see where it takes us. And within, I think, 4 months, I had found them a contract with a client. And
Nice.
what was important to me is Darby made space for us. And so it's my obligation to find space for other people. And so I think what I don't do well is I'll say this, we have certain partners in the industry that we love working with, and I will always try to find an opportunity. One of my biggest frustrations, I was even thinking about a contract we have right now. We have 2 subs on our team that I cannot squeeze out work for because the client keeps on looking at us saying, hey, I need you to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's very specific to what we do. And we brought these other team members on because they broadened our abilities and actually brought and more appropriately fit the scope of the contract that we were providing for.
Right.
And so I'm actually going to start working harder to find work for our partners because that's the only reason why we're here today. And so I've got to be more aggressively, or I got to more aggressively approach this concept because there's a lot of small businesses or even big businesses that have small teams. And I think our, as I said earlier, our client gets better product when they have the right team. It's not about the right company. It's about the right people doing the work. And, and for what it's worth, that's one thing that I do keep in the back of my mind is I'm always willing to find an opportunity that, we just had a visit. I should say this. We just had a visit with a client last week, 2 weeks ago, where we took, we have 4 or 5 subs, 3 subs, I think. And we took all of them with us because it's not about us. We presented a team. The client needs a team. And so we wanted to sell that team. And I think that's the most appropriate way to show value, in my opinion.
Well, I definitely want to thank you very much, Tyler, for your candor. I mean, we're all human. We're all trying to do good things and things that excite us, right? It's not just about the bottom line, but things that challenge us. And you've definitely shown us that is possible. You can find things that keep you creative and innovative and do things that, still keep the lights on, but at the same time challenge you and let you grow. So thank you for your candor. And thank you very much for joining us today on today's podcast. So, definitely
we really appreciate
appreciate
having you on again. We're going to pull you back in.
It's always good to talk to you. Always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Well, if you've enjoyed listening and getting to know Tyler at a much deeper, meaningful conversation you got to listen in on, please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the channel. We're growing because of people like him and dedicate their time to sit down and share their wealth of knowledge. And if you want to have questions, anything like that, please make sure you leave them in the comments below. We'll provide a link to Tyler's website as well as his LinkedIn profile. And so that way you can access it and reach out to him if you have any questions. But thank you very much for watching this episode of Toll Talk. I'm Alex Ficcari.
And I'm Kaylee Jakovics. We'll see you next time.
Take care.